Danielle Smith's government used the notwithstanding clause 4 times this fall to shield 2 separate bills from court challenges. It was used first to end the teacher strike and then to protect a trio of transgender laws, all of it very controversial. Here's Tara Nelson with part 2 of our year-end interview with the Premier.
As we tape this today, 21 MLAs, 20 of them UCP, including yourself, are facing citizen-led petitions. This has never happened in Alberta before, this sort of groundswell of anger. Are you concerned about the upset out there about some of the decisions that your government has made?
I think it's unfortunate because I believe it's an abusive process. I stand by every one of our MLAs. I think they're doing incredible work. I think we've got the support of the majority of Albertans on the agenda that we were elected to do. And I think the time to fight out these kind of policy differences are during a general election, which is scheduled for October of 2027. So I'll watch and see.
It is a pretty big protest movement, though. Does it concern you?
It's 21 people who've paid $500 and written a paragraph and gotten a CFO so far. So I guess we'll see what the petition campaign looks like.
Now, many of these petitions are linked to your government's use of the notwithstanding clause. So 4 times it has been used this fall. You've always described yourself as a libertarian. Yep. I think you still describe yourself that way, but you're imposing this government ideology on other Albertans and then removing their right to challenge it. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Well, I guess the common denominator is we'll do whatever it takes to protect kids. And when kids are facing gender confusion, they deserve to have time to figure out what their pathway is going to be and make their own choices if they're going to make medical decisions regarding their body that might affect their fertility. They can only do that when they're of age to do so. And we put lots of limitations on the choices of kids. We don't let them drink or smoke or do drugs or sign contracts or drive. And so it's very reasonable that if somebody is going to make a decision that ends their fertility, that they're old enough to understand what that means. And so that's why we said 15 years of age and younger is too young, but you can start the process when you're 16.
What do you say to the doctors who say we are more equipped to make these decisions, and to parents who say these are our kids, we're also equipped to make decisions for our own children?
There is another group of doctors that take a watchful waiting approach. Let a child get through the emotions that they have as they're going through puberty, and then once they're of an age to figure out what their pathway would be, then they can start that pathway, and that's what we're supporting.
Critics of the notwithstanding clause, the usage of the notwithstanding clause, say they call it an anti-democracy sledgehammer.
Well, it's the opposite of that. Democracy is decisions being made by elected representatives. And we have the ability in a system of parliamentary supremacy where we can pass a law, revise a law, repeal a law, and that is what we are elected to do. We have a difference of opinion with the court on these pretty foundational issues.
But their difference of opinion is that this is trampling on judicial independence and that it shouldn't be used proactively while they're midstream on a case.
Well, I guess I would disagree. We have demonstrated that we saw that they were putting an injunction against one of our foundational pieces of legislation in the case of protecting children from making premature medical decisions. We anticipated they would likely do the same for others, and it takes years for some of these things to wend their way all the way up to the Supreme Court. So when we made the judgment of what kind of harm might be caused to children in the meantime, we felt like this was the right path to take.
Let me ask you just about some healthcare changes that are coming. So different options in the province. Those who are willing to pay for procedures will obviously get some procedures faster. They already do. But what assurances can you give to Albertans when there's not a lot of detail in this plan yet, that those who can't afford to pay for procedures won't get even slower treatment?
What we have found is that the more money we give to the traditional public hospital system, it's not resulting in improved performance. We gave $3.5 billion more to AHS, and we're doing the same number of surgeries today, finally, that we were pre-COVID. Meanwhile, when we started paying charter surgical facilities based on the number of surgeries they did, it's gone up 50%, went up from 40,000 to 65,000. So we're moving to an activity-based funding model where we pay the facility for the surgeries that they perform. We hope that that is one way that will increase the number of surgeries. We're also paying for an additional 50,000 over the next 3 years to clear that backlog. And then dual practice should be seen in that light, is that we're doing all of this investment in the public health system, but then we're also creating another avenue so that doctors and surgeons who are only given a limited number of days in the hospital environment, some of them are only given 1 or 2 days a month, now they'll have the ability to take on additional patients, and we'll be requiring them to do at least as many surgeries as they are right now for the public system as they take on those private patients.
Doctors have expressed some concern about the plan, and they said that they haven't been consulted. Will you meaningfully consult with the AMA, with the CMA, and how soon?
Well, some doctors have expressed concern, and some doctors have expressed enthusiasm. I've been watching the opinion pieces, and I guess that those who don't want to do private practice won't, and those who do want to do private practice will.
Looking ahead to 2026, the price of oil is sitting around 58. The projection was more like 68. So what should Albertans expect going into 2026?
Well, I have told Albertans very frankly that we need $74 oil to balance our budget. That's what we have done. Albertans consistently want to have a low tax environment, and we've delivered on that. But what that means is that when oil prices are off by $10 or $15 or $20, it means it blows a big hole in our budget. That's why we're being very frank about the deficits we're likely to run this year. We hope that we can find a pathway to balance, but it's also the reason why we have to have more pipelines built. If we had built all 3 of the major pipelines that were set to go, Northern Gateway, Keystone XL, Energy East, we would be having 2.5 million barrels more of pipeline capacity and production than we do right now, which would be generating $50 billion a year in annual revenue. That's why we have put a singular focus on solving that problem, getting the investment climate back so that we can start rebuilding again. And it takes a little bit of time to do that. We're hoping to see some new additional production within the next couple of years. But as long as the prices stay low, it is going to be a lot of pressure on our budget for sure.
Premier Smith, we thank you for your time. Thanks for sitting down with us.
Yeah, good to see you.
And 2 advocacy groups challenging Alberta's law affecting transgender people aren't giving up a court challenge just yet. Yale and Skipping Stone hope to argue this is a criminal law issue because doctors who do not comply could face fines or even imprisonment.